And you bring up another good point. Like what's the why? What are you driven by? I used
exactly.
To say, I used to say you can't teach desire, but I heard another podcast with Tom Billieu where they said you could teach desire. So I'm going to figure that one out. But I always felt that, hey, you can't teach desire because you can teach the tools, techniques, and all those things, but you have to establish, what you are in it for. And like you said, people can come out, they have that early success, they have a little bit of change coming in. And once they got that, they just sit down for 6 months. And and
it takes forever to get that momentum going again, because remember, like the first 6 months that you come out, you're either hitting that momentum because you're talking to all your friends and family and everybody in your community, everybody in your social network. And then what happens is once you make that money and you get up on top, you forgot what it took to get there. And all of a sudden you're at the bottom. Now, when you go back and drum up all that momentum again, you can't do it with your friends and family and all these people, because it's like doing a wedding twice, right? How many of those do you do, right? You don't. So it's like, once you get that momentum, keep charging it and supercharging it. And I'm not talking about being aggressive. I'm talking about being aggressive with you, right? Like passionately make you visible so that everybody knows that you're putting yourself out there. That way, if somebody sees your podcast, right, and like, you know what, I want to get my license, who are they going to probably call? You, right? Because they're like, what, you have the wherewithal and the knowledge and the experience of getting your license. And a lot of people that probably have had their license. So you could help probably anybody in America get their license, right? So that's the same way with us. Is we want people to come to us and say, look, if you're looking for business insurance, if you're looking for health insurance, if you're looking for any kind of insurance, we're not just here to say, hey, we're going to find you the cheapest. No, we're going to say, why are you looking for it? And then we're going to find you the right policy for this time in your life. And that's really what we're all about, because we're passionate so that nobody else has to be. Because tell me how many people on both of your hands are passionate about insurance that you personally know, right? And you work with insurance people, right? And I would say same thing. I work with insurance people, and I would say as passionate as me or more, there's probably 5 or 6 in my life, period. So that just tells you that there's a lot of insurance people out there, and God bless them. They're not for you, right? They're for their own pocketbooks generally. Right.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And I will say I've been fortunate, especially in recent times, to meet, quite a few, via, the interviews and conversations.
Yeah.
Really passionate, but there's a whole bunch that I've certainly met that aren't necessarily in it for the right reasons.
Yeah. Right. I'm sure all the ones that are on your show, are probably very passionate, but think about how many people that I've recruited and you've recruited
I get
over
it.
the years that say, I'm passionate. I want to make money. I want it for my family. I want this. And it's kind of like Mike Tyson said, is that everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? And that is insurance in a nutshell, is that once you get that first hit, you got to be like, all right, that wasn't so bad. Let me get some more, right?
That's right. Something has to drive you. And really that goes to the other point that you made. I mean, even when you're speaking about, your client and what you're looking to do, you're not talking about, I got to get this done because this is how much I'm going to make on it. You're saying, hey, look,
it's about the money.
I want to find the solution for him. You're
correct.
And for, those that are listening, with someone like David, who has been very successful, even in my own career, I've had some successes as well. The money has been probably the last thing, that I would think that we probably have even thought about. It's more about, how much value can we add? Can we find
100%?
And the value that you add, your income is going to be commensurate with the amount of value that you add.
100%. It's going to be 100% incongruent with how you treat people. Okay. Like, and I will challenge anybody that listens to your podcast or out there in the insurance world that says, I put in 1,000%, incongruent with who I am, and they're, call it they're the second coming of Jesus. And if they're not successful, I would say you weren't following the system then, because all you have to do is understand people, treat them nice, understand how to solve problems by asking questions, right? And then coming up with a plan, let them make the decision, and then support that decision. Because if you sold that decision, then you got to support it too, right? And if you can do all those things, at the end of the day, you're going to be a very successful insurance person. It doesn't come fast. It doesn't come easy, but it comes.
That is
100%, 100%.
absolutely.
You can't be in this business for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 45 years, whatever it is, and not be successful, because just by being in business for that long, you're going to be successful.
Can't help it, right?
People are just going to call you like, bro, you've been in business 45 years. I want to do business with somebody like that.
That's right. That's right, man. Look, I want to go all the way back. So I want to just change course just a little bit.
Yeah.
20 years in the business, a lot of success. I want to go all the way back before you were the big cat. I want to go back to when you were the little cat, 9 years old. What'd you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a doctor of all things. And I do not have any doctors in my family whatsoever. There's not one doctor in our family that I know of anyway. And so like, for whatever reason, I wanted to be a doctor, probably because it's challenging, right? And because it's probably when I'm young that somebody told me that you could make a lot of money becoming a doctor. But what I soon realized when I got older is that insurance men and women and professionals can make way more than any doctor out there if you stay in it long enough, because of the thing called renewals. So I would say when I was 9, I wanted to be a doctor. When I was 18, I wanted to still be a doctor. By the time I was 20, because I got my license at the age of 21. I think the first time I got my license, I'm 42 now, right? But I think I got it. I passed it. I didn't go into insurance for about another 6 months after that, which is why I say I'm not fully 20 years in this yet. But I started about 6 months after that, went with a company that was called, actually Conseco back in the day, which was our former firm. I started with them, was out for about 6 months. My dad actually had cancer. We were selling cancer insurance. My dad actually got cancer, said, I need your help. So, of course I went and helped. And I was his chauffeur and I called executive assistant. That was my first time being an executive assistant. But so my dad we drove around and I got to learn a little bit of his business, and I probably worked with him for about 2 years. And then I decided that, I love my dad, but we're just not like, he's a super intelligent guy, super successful guy. And like, I consider myself super successful and super smart. We just couldn't and I love him and we're awesome together. And we hunt and, fish and do a lot of stuff together. Just cannot run a business together. You know what I mean, brother? So I got to the realization that I got to do something else. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to school again and finish up this doctor thing. So I went and did 2 years, got all the prerequisites for, medical school, took the MCATs, scored very borderline, right? So I could go to the Caribbean, I could go to these different foreign schools, but I really wanted to go to the US school, right? And I decided to put it on hold, went to Home Depot, and then I was at Home Depot for about 4 years, and then PMA came calling, and then PMA, I was there for 12 more years. And then last year I started Right Quote. But I mean, it's been wild. It really has, because it's not like anything that I would have ever scripted, yet it's everything I would want scripted. What I mean? It's weird. I don't know how to explain it, because it's nothing that when I was this old, and it's not like it was anything forced or like this was my last shot. It was just like God kept corralling me, bro, you need to go into this, because this is where you're going to help people. And this is where I need you. And admittedly, it's not insurance is not hard to me. And it's not hard because I can talk to people like you can talk to people, J-Rod, and people will understand that we're genuine and we mean what we say. So I think a lot of times if I'm sitting down with a family, or I'm sitting down with a business owner, I'm sitting down with another insurance professional, they can feel that I'm empathetic and they can feel that I care about the situation, right? I might not get as emotional as them, but I understand, and I'm very caring and understanding of the situation, and I truly want to solve it for them. So that's what I would say is, where I'm at now. But yeah, at 9 years old, I was not going to be an insurance guy. 100%.
No, I love that, man. I love that. It's about this, coming into this industry is it's not, when you start, it's not necessarily where you expect to go.
No,
no. Been in it a while, it's like where you expect it to be, right?
Yeah, that's right, right? It's like, but I like where I'm at, right?
You're like, yeah, it's like, it makes sense.
It makes sense. And it truly is like, the harder you work in insurance to create what you want, the faster you'll get there. It really is like, but a lot of people are like, well, I don't even know what I want. Well, what kind of insurance do you want to sell? Well, what kind is there? Everything, right? I mean, there's literally everything. We just had a guy that called us the other day, said, I'm shipping containers from China. And I'm shipping like 250,000 a time to get over here. It's like some AV equipment or whatever. He's like, do you sell that kind of policy? So I called our network of people. I'm like, yes, we actually have that. It's called a marine policy. And it was like, for what he was looking for, it wasn't as expensive as I thought, because I was thinking $2 million, $2.5 million. How much could that be? But it was actually like a couple $1,000. You know, that was it. Yeah, it wasn't bad. So like, there is all kinds of, and then even like sidebars of veins of insurance that you thought you knew. Like, I know life insurance. Yeah, but do you know how to do second to die? Or do you know how to do corporate life insurance? Do you know how to do key man life insurance? Like, there's all these sidebars where you're like, whoa, you could just have a career just in that.
Just in that,
just
right?
In that. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
You know, so, but that's why I like doing what I do, because there's so many days where you come into it thinking, okay, I got a plan. I'm going to make all these calls. And you literally get in there and one email switches your whole day, where you're like, it just boom. You're like, how did that happen? And I told, this is my famous, or not my famous, but I tell this to my guys and gals that work with us here at RightQuote. I say, we're always one call away from being millionaires. We really are, because there's that one person that can call that can change everything, right? 100%. So I always tell them, anytime the phone rings, I'm like, there's your call. Are you sure you're not going to want to answer that? So it's all about just putting yourself in the right perspective, so that when the information comes to you, that you're ready to take it full force on. I think a lot of people have great opportunities in insurance. Now we're talking that have great opportunities that fall flat in their lap, and they don't really realize what's in their lap. And they're like, yeah, but I'm making money over here. You're like, yeah, but bro, if you realize what you have in your lap, you would never have to do that ever again. Right. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's the biggest thing in insurance, is that it is patient. You got to have patience, and you got to have fortitude, and you got to have persistence. And the people that say that, you know, it's a, you know, get rich quick, it's not, man. It's
definitely not that.
Get rich. It might never happen, but you might get rich. And that's all perspective, right? But you might get rich if you do the right things, you stay in it for the right amount of time, and you have your respect at the end, right? Like, you didn't have to do a lot of bad things to get to where you're at, right? Because we know a lot of those guys, not a lot, but I know people that are in insurance, right, that have gotten there the wrong way, and they are glorified as like good insurance people. And I would say, yeah, but peel back the layers of the onion, you find that it stinks. You know what I mean? So
that's right. That's right.
And I'm saying, it's not that they're bad, like they're doing fraud, but they're bad because they're only thinking with their pocketbook and never thinking with their customer's pocketbook. You know.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And even in those situations, usually it's short lived or it's not sustained.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And they usually find their way out. But I'm like, but they have. Those are the ones I want to change, because they have, you know, they're able to connect, right? They're able to connect with people and be able to sell people. But if they just had a 1 degree where you're like, okay, let's just focus on the positives, and 1 degree positive, I think that person could be a positive for everybody. But I think a lot of times is they find, oh, I can just cheat a little bit there and nobody will notice. Before you know it, like, they get too far down the road, you know, it's just bad. But there's not a lot of those guys, but they make a bad name for all the ones that out there working hard, you know, for the customers. You know what I mean?
A note for anyone, you know, joining the business, if you're new, if you're just getting started. Matter of fact, there's a new agent who I'm going to talk to on Friday. I'm going to talk to her about something unrelated. And I want to mention this conversation to her, you know, just to say, hey, look, you know, compliance matters. You know,
100% does.
You're like doing your career.
100%
started. You know, make sure that you are on point with being compliant, being ethical in your business transactions, because you know things things can come back to hunt you.
They always will come back to hunt you. If you wrote it bad, it will always come back to hunt you. 100%. I'm a firm believer of that.